Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session, and Stephen and I are together in the Cleveland studio on a less than wonderful winter day in Cleveland. So good to have you here, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good. When I came in, I told you I hate this time of year. There's, snow and wet, and heat's on in your car with the, defrost on, and then you got to turn it off because you get too hot, and then your windows fall. It's so annoying.
And around here lately, it's like it's bitterly cold. And then it's 55 degrees 2 days later. It's like, okay, this is normal.
And then, so there are people listening, like, oh, why don't you move? It's like, well, where the fuck am I going to move, right?
Right.
I mean, because it's like this is a very affordable place to live, which is the biggest key point. But also, like, I don't want to go to California. Fires, drought, earthquake,
now floods.
Homeless.
Have you seen any of the flooding down there?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Right. Like, I mean, California, you've got beaches, but every time I turn on the news, it sounds like apocalyptic hellscape. I mean, seriously,
fires,
mudslides, famine,
earthquakes,
drought, flood. Like, how do you have fire and drought and floods all at the same time, right? Like, I just no. So I'll pass on California. Florida's got hurricanes and Ron DeSantis. So pass and pass. Texas, there's too many things to list there, right? Like, I don't know. So Ohio's,
Cleveland's actually a great place to live if you can get through the winters, which aren't frankly that
right.
bad.
They're not nearly as bad as Minnesota
you're
or Buffalo.
You're annoyed. You're not
Right. I mean, because we could be snowed in, right? Like,
what would that be like?
Well, I know that's what I'm just saying. I mean, you get 3 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet of snow in Buffalo or Minnesota, Detroit, something like that. No, I mean this is a place you just got to deal with the shit.
All right, man. Let's get into it. So if you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't, but a bunch of documents, some of which were classified, some of which were classified top secret, were found in a former office of Joe Biden and some in his garage. This is such great red meat for the right wing. It's, first of all, compared to the Trump thing, it's not apples to apples.
Stop. Nope, we're not doing that.
What aren't we doing?
We're not doing it's not apples to apples.
It's
different.
not.
No, stop. We got to start with what it is, okay?
Go ahead.
One, you find him in his garage, and then you find him in an office that isn't the White House and isn't a place that is managed by the
archives
or gatekeeper, whatever.
Right.
Like, first and foremost, just acknowledging what it is. It's like, again, it's the same thing. Like, you took the records out, you didn't follow the proper process, and there's a law against it. Just like, I think you have to start there.
Okay.
Right? You have to start, you can't immediately jump to this doesn't exonerate Trump, right? Like, and it's not apples, no, you have to, no, okay, it's not, but you have to go through the proper analysis. First of all, I fucking told y'all about Joe Biden. I fucking told you he's a fucking dipshit, and here you go again. This guy repeatedly steps on his own dick. How hard is it to leave the White House papers in the fucking office? What is it with you fucking old white guys? Why do you have to take all the paper? Leave the paper in the office. We don't have these problems. Jesus. Okay.
I do not have an explanation for why this happened, because I agree with you.
I mean, it's so, again, there is a law, the presidential record, whatever.
Yep.
You got to keep those documents in the White House. So, Trump, you fucked it up, and we think you fucked it up because you were trying to hide a whole bunch of shit. Biden, you fucked it up too. Right? Now, here's the thing. Where they're different, Biden absolutely fucked up by taking this shit out. And there is an issue, and it has to be investigated.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Democrats. Sorry, Biden. Sorry, whoever.
Hold on, though.
But
Hold on.
Just wait. Let me get through it. So you fucked up. You take the stuff out. You put it. Why is it in your garage? Why would you leave it in your vice presidential whatever office? And why does that place even exist? But whatever. And then... this is where the difference is. You find them, right? FBI, DOJ, they asked for them back, and they did give them back, right? And this also didn't just happen. This happened back in, they found this stuff back in, November or October or whatever. Yep. So, like that's where it's different, right? Like it was found. Oh, here you go. Made a mistake. Gave it back. Now, because of Trump, though, you have to make it look. The optics need to look the same. So you put your special master investigator person on it, master inspector, whoever, special
counsel in this case.
I don't know. I think put this person on it, and they have to investigate it, and probably doesn't come back with anything. And here's some other key differences, right? We actually wouldn't have known about the issues with Trump if Trump didn't talk about them, right? Trump is the one who told us that, the FBI and the Department of Justice is picking on me because they want me to give these documents back. We gave them back, right? Like, no one would have even known that he took the shit out, but because the DOJ was like, hey, we need this shit back, and he can't not be the center of attention, right? And so then he screams and yells that the DOJ is asking him for stuff. He's saying what he did do. Then he found out that he didn't do. So then they fucking raid his place. And then he makes a big deal about that, which also we wouldn't have known about the raid had he not told us about it.
And when we called it a raid on the show, you actually objected to that term. Because raid implies bashing down a door with a... And they literally said, knock, knock, open your fucking door. We're coming in. I didn't even go so far as to not wear FBI jackets.
They did, so they didn't wear identifying like FBI agent jackets. They were actually very discreet about it. And then Trump is the one who made it a big deal. So again, like there are key differences between Trump and Biden. That is true. But where you have to start with this is, Joe, you fucked up, right?
100%.
Right? Like, and that's like, because that's not where you immediately went to it's not apples to apples to Trump, and it doesn't exactly, which is fine, and we can go through that, but you have to acknowledge, if we are being objective, that Biden fucked up. Like, has to start there.
100%. He fucked up, and in a way that makes absolutely
told y'all.
In a way that makes no sense, he fucked up. Because why would you have documents that have been irrelevant to you for 6 years? Right? These are things that were from his vice presidential times. So literally, all right, I'm well known for not getting rid of things. I have boxes in my basement of shit that has probably moved from North Carolina.
I am really curious on how you're about to try to justify
this. Well, I'm not. Quit jumping to conclusions and putting words in my mouth.
No. Justifying you. That's what I'm curious to see how you're going to
spin this. What I'm saying is that I admittedly have boxes of shit in my basement that have probably not been opened for 10 years. And people would say, why the fuck don't you get rid of it? And the answer is, it's my shit. Leave me the fuck alone. Now, I don't have any classified documents that I'm aware of. But that's how I see this going down.
I don't know if I agree with that. I just know what you do for a living. I can easily see something.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Not government classified documents. I guarantee. All right, fuck.
Not so fast, my friend.
Hold on, you are correct. I have documents issued to me by clients in my office that are absolutely irrelevant to anybody, and I just lost 4 fucking contracts thanks to you. Thanks to the 4 people who are going to hire me that listen to our show. Anyway, my point being that the major differences are the Biden team went, oops, we fucked up. And I feel bad for whoever legal aid or whatever was going through Biden's shit, opens up a binder and goes, are you fucking kidding me? Can you imagine having that job? Like, now I've got to be the one who says, hey, someone tell the boss, you just did what Trump is being grilled for. While Trump deserves everything he got, like you said, it was all mine. And then when they took his shiny toy away, he threw a tantrum. Mm-hmm. Whereas Biden went, let's say one thing that Biden did that is awesome. It's right next to my 67 Corvette. What a terrible, is that a humble brag? Of brag fuck up? I don't know what that is. But it's a sweet looking car.
Well, first of all, it's one of my favorite Corvettes. But hey, I might have fucked up, but I got a badass car,
Corvette.
Right? Huh? Anybody else in the cars? You over there? You look like a Mustang guy. Like, what the fuck with this guy?
Said that, oh my God. But I guess if I had a 67 Vet and I could work it into an official government conversation, by the way, I love the way those cars look, but I've driven a few old Vets and they are not comfortable at all. They're just beautiful.
Although there is a new, there's a company, and I'm sure there's more than one, but because I have a friend who was actually looking at it, where they take the body but they put in all updated new parts. So
I would love that.
Like you get an old Charger, right? A 67, 68 Charger.
Right.
And then, but you drop like a new like Hellcat or Demon engine in it with,
all the modern comforts and the,
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, I like people, antique car guys are like, you can't put a new radio in there. Fuck you. Yes, I can. I absolutely, I love the style of the car. Right? Like, and if you can give me an engine that gives me the rumble, like, I actually don't want a 57 Chevy engine. You know why? Because it was like really, really gas inefficient. It was really not a great, and it was really fast, right, in a short block of time. But now there's cars that are a lot faster that aren't even really built for street, right? Like, it's a classic antique, but
we're so getting off topic. But I love it. No, it's all right. I started it, I think, but
it's Joe Biden's fault.
Next to these documents was a '67 Corvette. I heard someone do an electric car, like taking old beat up Teslas and putting that stuff in one of those. That would be phenomenal. But again, we're getting way off topic. But yeah, I've not heard any left wing media object to a special counsel being appointed for this, and they made a point on MSNBC of saying the special counsel was a Trump appointee. I'm sure that was a political calculation. And.
I mean, look, I think for this is likely a nothing burger, right? Now, maybe, who knows?
Right.
Maybe there's some documents in there that, like it brings something to light, but, I mean, chances are it's probably not, but maybe there is something in there. And, look, if he did something wrong, right?
Hold him accountable.
Right? Hold him accountable. First, and he did, first of all, by those documents not going through the proper channels and just being in his garage. I think the vice president's office, like that one, I feel like there may be a little bit of gray area because I don't know what that office is, right? Like, so I don't know. I also don't know where it is, right? I didn't really look into that. So I'm not quite, that one I don't understand quite as much, only because it feels like it seems like it's an official, like, government place.
Right.
Right? Like, so I guess there's just questions about that. But, the stuff in his garage, like, what are you doing? Why is that there? And then so you look at it, you figure out what it is. If there's some wrongdoing beyond just taking the documents out, I think that needs to be exposed as well. I have no issue with holding leaders accountable, no matter whether they're in the party that I vote for or not. Right? I mean, and I'm well documented as not being a Biden fan, but I don't want to see him just taken down for the sake of being taken down. But I also don't want to see him given a pass just for the sake of saying, well, it's not as bad as what Trump did.
Right. Oh, I agree. Right? And I got to say this. I am really annoyed with Biden on this because it's red meat. I listen to.
But the problem is that it happened a long time ago. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, comparatively, right? Because, I mean, he's been, like, he came into office in 2020, 2021 or whatever.
Yep.
But he was vice president. He left
until 2016,
office,
yeah.
Right, like he left off. So chances are, like, this happened in 2016, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but again, one of the, like, I was never a fan of his.
We're clear.
From a political standpoint and everything else. And I just felt like, especially for these progressives and Democrats, I'm like, look, this is not your guy. Right? Like, and everybody is just like, well, he was the one who was supposed to win and could win and the only one who could beat Trump. He's the only one who could beat Trump because that's what we said. Right? Like, ultimately, people had to vote. Right? And then the media, those to be, said, it's got to be Biden. Right? There were plenty of other people who, if you strip all the media bullshit away, who were plenty capable of doing the job. But we decided that we wanted to go with this guy because we felt most comfortable with this guy, but our reasoning for doing so was ass backwards. Let's just be honest.
Well, I mean,
right?
The reason we did so is exactly what you said.
He's fucking 100 years old. This is not the right guy who should be running the country right now, right? But
he was the right
we
guy
went
to
with
beat
him. But again, Trump wasn't the right guy either, right? Like, we're picking these people for all the wrong reasons.
Agreed.
Right? And we're saying, well, he's the right guy to beat Trump because we're saying he is. Right? Like, I mean, but
history proves it to be true, though. I mean, the fear for the Democratic Party was it was going to be Biden or Bernie Sanders, who's also 100 years old.
Right.
And Bernie Sanders.
I didn't want fucking Bernie.
I know you didn't. Who did you want, though? At one point, you wanted Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, she did a good job of killing that for me pretty quick.
The bloom came off that rose.
But what I'm saying is like we okay, you can't go back, you can't undo it. I feel I don't know how much more he has to do to get him to realize that he shouldn't run. I don't know what the DNC is going to do. He cannot run in 2024, right? And I'm not saying because of this, but this is just one of many reasons why this guy should not be running, right? Again.
Agreed.
Right? All right, you served your purpose. You were the only one who could be Trump in 2020 or 2016 or whatever it was. Okay, congratulations. I refuse to believe that again, though. He's not going to get reelected. That just won't happen. I'll bet a stake on that.
I would. He's going to see some primary competition, and I think
he's better.
I use this as an anecdote.
Better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. If he doesn't see primary competition, at that point, then I can no longer vote Democrat. I just can't.
Well,
if you get him out, and if you can't get him to do it the dignified way and just step down and just say, hey, let the young kids have it, then you have to force him out with the primary. And if you don't do it and you're not willing to do it because of some bullshit incumbents always win and he's our best choice, like he's no longer your best choice to beat anybody.
No, I mean, I use this as an anecdotal thing, but my mom, who is as liberal as it gets and is 74 years old, said to me, this guy can't run again. I mean, flat out said I didn't, and I think that that's the prevailing feeling. I also am 100% sure at one point when he was originally campaigning, he said, I'm going to run for one term. I guarantee he said that.
That doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter anymore because he's reversed it. But
I mean,
right. And well, that annoys me because, like, dude, you were I'm going to come in, save the day, and then, pass the baton to someone who's nice and youthful, like a 65-year-old.
I don't remember ever making that as a
he didn't say all
affirmative statement.
He didn't say all that other stuff.
Well, I don't remember him even making the affirmative statement that he was only going to run once. I remember him dancing around it, maybe implying it or whatever. Right. But the point is,
he can't run again.
He can't run again.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, this whole document thing, I think, is just another sort of notch in the belt as to why.
Sure.
Who do you replace him with? I don't know. Let's see who shakes out. We
should do an episode purely on 2024 potential candidates, but I haven't prepped for that, and I'm guessing you haven't either. So
yeah,
we should wait till it's closer to 2024.
Yeah, it's just, we literally just got into 2023.
Agreed.
So I think we need give it a couple months.
No, I think maybe November-ish.
Yeah.
Of 23, a year out. All right, man. Let's move on because George Santos is now getting exactly what we called for, and that is pressure from mostly regional Republican leaders to say, you got to step down.
Well, but it's the reason why, right? What's interesting is it's not the lying about his entire life, right? That's not the part that they're actually pushing for, that they're pushing against. Right, what they're pushing against is that he himself made like a $700,000 donation to his own campaign, and the question is because the money looks like it ties back to him doing some tax fraud, tax evasion, ill-gotten gains sort of deal, and it looks fishy. So they're investigating him, and chances are it doesn't end well, right? Like once they really get their teeth into that investigation. I mean, this guy has lied about so much. I just find it hard to believe that he honestly, legitimately earned that $700,000 and that it's a legitimate campaign donation. What's funny is he got interviewed by Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was just like, hey, man, they're asking some questions about this donation you made to your campaign. Why don't you clear up where that money came from, right? And Santos goes to I'll tell you where it didn't come from. It didn't come from China. Right. It didn't come from Ukraine. It didn't come from Burisma. That's where it didn't come from, right? And even Matt Gaetz was like, okay, you didn't really answer the question, so...
And that's where it ended because Matt Gaetz folded like a cheap tent.
Well, no, I mean, he kind of, he gave him an opportunity to go through it again, and then Santos goes back to it didn't come from Russia or China, like some of these other people, we know where they get their money. You know what I'm saying? You with me, brother? And Matt Gaetz. Then he let it go. This guy is... Look... He's another one. He's a clown. He's a buffoon. It's all now. This one, he's too obvious, right? To the point where everyone's like, all right, and now everyone is just kind of like, we need, because the problem is you can't force him out because he's a liar, because he lied on his resume. Unfortunately, that's not a crime to lie on your resume about being something you're not. Right? I mean, it shows poor judgment. It shows all these other things, but it's not actually an actionable offense. Okay?
Right. Understood.
So that's and the right thing would be for him to step down. But in this day and age, we literally live in an age of no shame. Right? And
that is clearly true.
Like we just live in an absolute age of no shame. And so that's not going to be why you get him out. But this whole thing with the campaign donation and where that money came from, that is the thing. But we have to actually do the investigation, follow the paper trail, and figure out where the money came from. And that's where you build the case where then you can remove him. The issue that the Republicans have, obviously, is that they don't want to lose a seat. But at the same time, you can't have this guy in there if you find out that the money is dirty, have him in there literally delegitimizing, your platform even more. And knowing that he's just such an easy, low-hanging fruit and target, I think they've come to the realization that they have to sacrifice him, but they want to make sure they do it the right way.
Well, they've asked him to step down, and he has clearly said he will not do that.
Right. And that's kind of them dealing with their own monster, right?
Sure.
You've got the Matt Gaetzes, right? Like, you didn't put any pressure on Matt Gaetz when he was being investigated to step down, and nothing happened. Right, and so now you're stuck with them. You didn't put any pressure on Marjorie Taylor Greene with all her bullshit, Lauren Boebert, any of them, and so now you've created this monster where people are going even outside of the MAGA nonsense, right, and doing just their own nonsensical bullshit. Now you have no way whatsoever to rein them in or control them. So now you're stuck with people like George Santos.
Yep. Well, again, at least you're right. It wasn't for moral or ethical reasons that they're coming, or at least not lying reasons that they're coming after him, but at least his own party is saying enough is enough of this guy. And I believe he said he made $55,000 the year he donated $700,000 to his own campaign. Mm-hmm. So, maybe he made some great moves at the casino and put it all on 33 red and hit twice in a row. All right. You brought this to my attention. I don't know anything about it, but ATF.
Yeah, so the ATF came out and issued statement, I guess, that they are now classifying pistol braces for AR-15s as if you have a short barrel, like if you have a shorter barreled AR-15 or rifle, and you put a pistol brace on it, like. Those previously were classified as AR-15 pistols, and they were legal, and the brace is used to stabilize. Like, you could use the brace, put it on your arm. They were developed for veterans who, had damaged arms and limbs and make it easier to shoot. So the ATF came in and said, well, you know what? We're going to change those designations from pistols to short-barreled rifles, and if you have one, you need to now register it with the ATF through their system, as it is now an SBR, short barrel rifle, and you have 120 so many days to do so, and if you don't do it, then we're going to come and confiscate it and blah blah blah, all that other stuff. And the reality is that for them to go back, right, and retroactively apply it, right, if you want to say that's the move going forward, right, and go through the registration process and all that other stuff, all right, fine. I think it's still shitty. I think it's still a violation of the Second Amendment, but okay, fine. But this is completely, I think, a violation of the Second Amendment, and it has to be challenged in court. Because now they're going, because what they've basically done is... What they basically done is said, the thing that we said was fine is no longer fine, and if you have it, then it's now not only not fine, but it's illegal, and it's not just illegal, it's a felony, right? Like, so if you have it and you don't, if you have this and you don't go through these steps, continuing to own a thing that we previously said was legal can theoretically put you in jail, right? Like, so, and what it does is it forces a gun registry, which ultimately down the line, if they've got a gun registry and you have to register with it, then ultimately, if you have a registry, then you can go and then you can confiscate, right? And that's the path. Now you could say, oh, well, it doesn't, like, why? Why would I think that it won't lead there? What has Joe Biden said? in his campaigning. You've got groups out there that literally would love to go in and kick down doors and use guns to take people's guns from them. So my biggest issue is the registration aspect of it, and then classifying it retroactively, applying the classification retroactively to something that was previously said legal. And I think this is a major violation of the Constitution, and it has to be challenged in court, immediately.
I mean, challenged in court. I don't know how the ATF is an agency an enforcement agency. Mm-hmm. They don't make laws.
Exactly.
So they're just deciding we're going to create that's why, how do I even classify? So you're just coming out you just decided, look, the FDA can't make pot legal.
Right, exactly. Right? Or they can't go, the FDA can't all of a sudden, if people were getting high off strawberries, can't say, all right, well, strawberries are now illegal. That's something that has to go through Congress.
Or state law.
So my question is, all right, GOP, the Republicans, you're in control of Congress. You're going to bring the hammer down on the Democrats and own the libs. Where the fuck you at?
They're investigating Hunter Biden's laptop is where they're at.
I hear all this Second Amendment bullshit, rah, rah, rah. NRA, where the fuck you at? They issued a statement, but what are you doing?
What do they say if you happen to read it?
They said all the right things in terms of this is violation of the Constitution, whatever. So what are you doing? Right, that's my question. Now, also, this came out yesterday. It came out yesterday at 2:30 p.m. But I haven't heard shit about it from Kevin McCarthy. I haven't heard shit about it from any Republican congressman, senator, or whatever, right? That have vowed to protect the Second Amendment and everything. I haven't heard anything from Trump and his fat mouth. Right? So where are all these people that are going to protect the gun rights?
Well, if that's a classic tactic, though, right? You release something in the afternoon on Friday, knowing no one's going to get to it.
Yeah, it's a classic tactic, but it's 2023, so all that sort of I release it on Friday bullshit went out the window, and Trump proved that, right? Because they did dumb shit all the time, Monday through Sunday.
Sure.
Right? And it all got reported on. Yeah. So the idea that, this is released on Friday, we can't, every single congressman, senator, whatever, one, I'm sure got some sort of notification, right, that this occurred, and two, they have the capabilities between smartphones, computers, laptops, this, and you're a U.S. congressman, senator, you can call a press conference any fucking time you want. Using the weekend as an excuse is bullshit.
Well, and back to your previous comment, if the NRA isn't going to spend any money on lawyers because their financial situation sucks, at the very least, they should be rattling the cages of the Matt Gaetzes and the really hardcore Second Amendment folks. Because
Matt Gaetz is.
Right,
I don't know. Ted Cruz or something like that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Point being is I don't really have many defenses of the GOP, and I've said that if Democrats would just flip their stance on guns, and they would never lose an election. But where are somebody out there in the government, some of these congressmen, senators, whatever, and there's even Democrat Joe Manchin, right?
Right.
Where are you?
Yeah, sure.
Bernie Sanders is even and this is the sort of thing that puts him in a conundrum, right? Because he's all Second Amendment, but he also is all pro gun control and all that other shit because he's straddling the fence, because he's not this great fucking progressive savior that you guys all think he is or whatever. Not you specifically, but you know what I'm talking about. It's something to watch. Now, look, the reality is that, again, this came out yesterday, came out Friday the 13th. Which is a nightmarish sort of thing that would come out on Friday the 13th. But it's something that I'm going to watch closely because I want to see who's actually out there fighting for the Second Amendment, right? And there's going to be plenty of people that agree with this and that you're a gun control advocate or whatever, and I don't have time for you, right? Because you're and here's the reality: you got people like George fucking Santos in Congress, okay? The reality is that the stability of our country has never been under more direct threat, in my personal opinion, than it is right now. I don't believe that we get this resolved with meetings coming together in the middle and having a big kumbaya moment where we figure everything out and we stop fighting. This ends in fucking blood, right? So, unfortunately, you're gonna have to resolve that with guns. Sorry. It just is what it is, right? Probably not tomorrow, and maybe not 10 years, maybe not in 10 years, but it's coming. and it may not come. It's not going to come in classic, line formation, shooting muskets across the street from each other. But you're going to have instances where you're going to need to be able to defend yourself, and you're going to need more than a fucking lever shotgun. Now that being said, if they can't do this the right way and figure it out and actually protect the Constitution, and then, the Dems and left come in, and the idea that they want to come... Anyway, if they can't figure it out that way, then,
Well, again, the things I'm hung up on are enforcement agencies don't make laws, they enforce existing laws. So how they get to reset the rules for themselves confuses me. In the past... you can even make that argument with the EPA, right? With some of the rules that they've issued, and you're just like, okay, so we now all have to abide by this, and Congress has no say in it. How's that different, right? I mean, yeah. Well, again, the EPA doesn't do a lot of enforcement. EPA agents don't knock down doors.
Exactly. But the EPA does, they issue these rules that we all have to abide by. ATF is issuing a rule. The difference is that now you've got the problem is that ATF. I know ATF agents, right?
Yeah.
And they are very well trained. I mean, most of them are well trained military guys, right? Sure. And they do go and knock on doors, and they will come and take your shit.
Yeah.
Right. So the EPA may not have that arm of guy come in and kick down your door, but also the EPA shouldn't be making rule. It should have to go through Congress. Right, and I'm not saying it because I'm anti-environment guy. What I'm saying is that there is a fucking process that we have, how our government is designed. Right, we shouldn't have all these agencies just saying you can and you can't do this. If it's going to be a law, or it's going to and there's going to be penalties for it that hurt people if they do them, then it needs to go through the proper channels, which is fucking Congress. Sorry,
agreed. Well, and
whether it's the EPA or the ATF or the FDA or whoever you like or don't like,
and. I think the big point is, I agree with you that the problem here is that they're trying to retrospectively enforce something.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my statement on where the country is going is I probably shouldn't have gone down that road, right? I do believe it. In worst case to worst, if you lose your guns in a boating accident, then so be it. You know what I mean? That's air quotes.
I understand.
But I do have I've got strong issues with an agency coming out and saying this thing you have is now illegal, can be confiscated, and can ultimately end you in jail without that going through Congress, it being retroactively applied to something that was previously determined to be legal and okay and perfectly fine to purchase. It's all very.
It's got your ears perked up, and we got to keep an eye on it. I mean, I just learned about this today from you. So to me, it seems like enforcement agencies can't just say we're doing this now. Maybe they can and say it's up to the courts to challenge us. Well, you're going to lose
because that's like the FDA saying, you know what? We've decided that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories are class 3 drugs. And if you have them, they're illegal. You need to turn them in. And if you don't, then someone's going to come in your house, kick in your door, take them in, and you're going to be charged with a felony.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of if they could actually do that.
Because the
FDA classifies things.
Well, let's just say the DEA.
Okay.
Right? The DEA, right? Drug Enforcement Agency.
Sure.
You know what?
Yep.
Aleve is now a class 3 drug. And it's like, well, you can't do that. Well, we did. And we're going to come to your door, we're going to take your Aleve, and you're going to get hit with a felony. Right? This is what they're doing. Right? Well, it was literally legal yesterday when I bought this.
I'm trying to think my way through this because I think the FDA would have the ability to schedule something, and then the federal code does not say marijuana, cocaine, whatever. It says Schedule
FDA
1 drugs.
Was the wrong use.
So okay, all right, but yeah,
don't get hung up on that. Just,
okay, yeah.
Again, federal agency coming in saying something that was legal now is not legal, and if you have it, we're not going to grandfather it in. We're going to say now they're saying all you got to do is register it, right? Which I believe the registry aspect is the violation of the Second Amendment. Right? We cannot have a gun registry. If you have a gun registry, that leads to confiscation. Leading to confiscation is the ultimate violation of the Second Amendment. Also, that is pretty much the end of the country as a democracy and as a republic.
I don't agree with that. I don't.
You don't agree with what?
That a registration is the end of democracy.
It absolutely. A gun registry is absolutely the end of your democracy. Absolutely.
Right,
because here's the deal. Because why? Because then you get someone like Joe Biden has already said it, right? He said that he literally wants to take guns out of people's homes, right? He's got multiple sound bites you can find that's easy to find, right? So if I have to now register any weapon that I own, right, which is the direction that they want to go, and there's multiple bills, like these bills can't get passed, and we don't have to worry about them with the way the Congress is set up right now. There's multiple people who have bills that are sitting there that nobody will pass or put to the floor that would literally go in and take people's guns out of their houses. So if you put a situation in where I now have to register what the weapons that I have, because you're not, right now, by law, they're not allowed to have an actual registry. But what they're trying to do is sidestep that. So if they can sidestep it, and then they can have and then they can just justify it and say it, well, we need to know with all these different types of rifles which ones are out there, right? It's like, well, why do you need to know which ones are out there?
Well, I can tell you this.
Why do they need to know which ones are out there?
For the same reason they need to know what cars are out there.
Why?
Because vehicles impact people around you, and having them safe and having them, operable and on the,
And so do you remember a few years back the story we talked about?
You're going to have to give me more information than that.
And the focus was in Philadelphia, and one of the biggest issues in Philadelphia was that the police were going in and taking people's cars and repossessing people's cars and their houses, accusing them of drug crimes that they didn't commit, taking their cars and then reselling them.
I don't remember that story, but I mean that's okay. That's a fair point. I lived in New York State. I owned handguns in New York State, and I had to register. I have somewhere in this house is my New York State pistol permit, which has every handgun I legally owned in New York State. Truth be told, I had other handguns that I brought in from Ohio that New York State didn't know about. I'm no longer there. And Kathy Hochul and I would get along great because she's a Western New Yorker, so I'm feeling safe. But
registering a car is different, right? Register a car, you have it on the street, things happen, whatever. People use their cars in an everyday situation. Like I have a gun that never has to necessarily leave my house and is there perfectly for self-defense, right? Like they're apples to oranges sort of comparisons and situations.
Oh, definitely.
And look, shall not be infringed, right? Pretty simple.
Right?
I mean, like how you want to interpret it is fine. I'm going to interpret it in the way that's most beneficial to me, frankly.
All right.
Right. And now look, it's not something that I'm just going to let go and sweep it under the rug and say, all right, well, we agree to disagree. Like, I mean, I think you can say, I don't think that the X, Y, and Z is going to happen. But you look at places where, they've taken some of these more drastic measures, and the U.S. is just different than all those places.
I can tell you a story that actually reinforces your point. A very good friend of mine, my friend of my family, got in New York State, got into a fight with a guy. He was running with his dog, and the guy shot a leaf blower in his dog's face, and they got into a disagreement that led to some punches being thrown. The guy that my friend punched was like the nephew of a sheriff or something. So he gets charged with a crime. I think it was assault. And within a few weeks, police came to his house and said, you own these handguns. We want you to surrender them, which he had to ultimately do. And it took him roughly 2 years of legal battles for him to get them back. So that was a case in point of what you were saying. Now, it was New York State, not the federal government, but the federal government is more armed and more scary. So, I mean, that was in reaction to him being charged with a crime. And again, ultimately, the story came out and nothing came of it. But what you just described did happen. And he didn't lock his doors. And by the way, he lives in a super affluent suburb of New York. So the idea that he would go Branch Davidian would just, in my opinion, is hilarious. Those bay windows are great until you're... all right, moving on. But we'll stay on this topic because I'm...
Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't care, you don't care. It's fine. Not you. I'm just saying in general. I think a lot of people lean more towards more gun regulation and are probably less worried about gun confiscation and everything else. And I look at history. I look at and I'm like, look, man, I don't fall into that camp. You won't convince me. I just think this country is a violent country.
No doubt about that.
And it was born of violence. It's maintained its freedom through violence. And that's not going to change, no matter how many, how progressive you want to be. It's just not. And I don't like what I hear a lot. I don't like a lot of what I hear that comes from the progressive camp and the way there's certain things that they want you to force people to accept and to do, but then they also really want to take away people's guns because they feel like if they can take away people's guns. Like, here's the thing. I'll tell you this right now. One of the main reasons they just didn't go door to door and just force people to take vaccinations is because of the gun laws in this country. Right? There are people who absolutely would have loved to just say, you got to do it, right? Like they would have forced people to do it, right? Against their will and said, take it, right? Now, look, I got vaccinated and boosted.
I don't think that would have happened, but I see your point.
Look, there's a lot of things that you don't think would have happened that are unfathomable, but the bottom line is part of the reason is in this now listen, you got a lot of crazy motherfuckers, and there's plenty of people that I'm like, they probably should absolutely not have them. But the reality is that they do, right? You got more guns in this country than people. You got more guns in this fucking house than you got people.
Well, there's two people in this house.
Right.
If I had 3 guns, which maybe I do, maybe I don't.
You only got 3?
No, I said if I had 3. There's one on the wall right here. So
I'm just saying, like
2 others. So
right.
Yes.
I mean, and you don't know. And while people are just like, that's so scary and dangerous, but guess who else it's scary and dangerous for, right? Which it's a certain level of check and balances where you don't like it, but man, if and when it's gone, you are going to regret that it's not there. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, well, I'm not looking to turn over any of my guns. I've done nothing wrong with them. But I just object to the statement that
go to China.
What's that?
Go to China.
No.
I was saying, I mean, like that's a society. They don't got guns. Go ahead. Go to China.
I don't know. I mean, I know that
the gun laws in China are insanely strict.
I'm guessing it's where if you're extraordinarily wealthy, you get them, and if you're not, you don't. And that's the way it is in a lot of countries. In countries like England, people say there's no guns in England. Yes, there are. They're just incredibly expensive and very difficult to get. Like, I've worked with a guy who's British, and getting a side-by-side shotgun.
It's interesting because it's interesting who has the guns in Europe, because it's not wealthy people.
No, but they spend a lot of money on it, though.
No, they do spend a lot of money, and they are insanely hard to get. But a lot, like just talking to the people that I know, it's like
the guy who I was talking to was a salesman, and I forget what I was buying from him, but yeah, I think he paid $20,000 for a side-by-side shotgun. Now, there's fancy shotguns, but $20 fucking grand. Come on. All right, we got to move on because I can't wait to get this. We're going to crush on time, and you told me who announced themselves as a candidate for the head of the RNC. Mm-hmm. I don't want to pretend I knew this prior to you telling me, so go for it.
I mean, it makes perfect sense that Mike Lindell would decide that he should just run the RNC, which is the Republican National Committee. But Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, the Trump sycophant, the insane human, former addict that replaced drugs with religion and nonsense, just feels that he should just run the RNC, and if he does, then he'll fix the country. Now, I don't think he's got a snowball chance in hell. And when I heard this, when I was driving down the street, I literally almost drove off the road because I laughed out loud. But yeah, that's where we're at. Mike Lindell, head of the RNC, potentially.
So part of me says, please let this happen. And the other part of me says, I watched Idiocracy not that long ago. This could actually happen. And if this guy, Mike Lindell is a very troubled human being. Yeah. And part of me is, I've met that guy so many times in my life where they used to be drug addicts or hardcore alcoholics or whatever, and they just completely give their life to God, and they believe that everything they do exudes pure righteousness because they've seen the light. And they're different than the likes of Rush Limbaugh and Laura Ingraham, who are just doing a character to make a shit ton of money. Mike Lindell believes what he says. He's fucking nuts, but he's genuine. And maybe that's more scary. So again, part of me wants to say, please put this clown at the front of the circus and and let this jump off the tracks the way it surely will. But there is that part of me that worries, if it jumps off the tracks, does it take the whole country down with it?
Yeah, I mean, because the head of RNC is the person who's going to direct where money goes in campaigns and things like that.
Sure.
And Mike Lindell is definitely going to direct money to
Donald J. Trump.
some really, well, obviously Donald Trump, but then, candidates that align with his worldview, which his worldview is
quirky.
Basically.
Let's go with quirky.
I was going to go, probably looks like a toilet bowl after a taco night, but sure, whatever.
Sorry, I'm not as eloquent as...
Same difference. So it would be really dangerous to put a guy like that into that position because it is a position of power. The seat right now is held by Ronna McDaniel, who is the niece of Mitt Romney. And so, there's issues with, Republicans have issues with her and, her relationship to him. And I think the issue with Ronna McDaniel is that she's actually good at her job. I disagree with her about, I'm sure with pretty much everything, but she did a pretty good job managing the situation considering the position that Trump put her in. And, people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and everything else. So being able to manage all that shit show, and still come out in one piece is in and of itself probably deserves some pat on the back. But that being said, as much as I would love to see her out of that role, I definitely don't want to see her replaced with this guy. I mean, because there is the initial comedic value,
absolutely,
right? But then there's the reality that he's going to be directing where spending is, where it goes, and could put some really dangerous people, in other dangerous people in positions of power, and we just can't have that.
Right. And to your point, we're talking about it now because this is probably as far as it's going to go. I think so. If it gets beyond the point of just a punchline, then we're already fucked.
Yes.
If he is actually in the running and Republicans split 70-30 against him, if 30% of the Republican Party that votes for this role says, yeah, he's our guy, we're fucked.
Yeah.
All right. We had to get that out there.
Yeah.
And now my mind is changing. It's probably too dangerous for me to even have this comedic moment. An article we put in our Slack account was the Missouri House of Representatives is looking to impose a dress code where women are not allowed to wear sleeveless outfits in the State House.
Right. Yeah.
I've got some thoughts on this. I'll throw to you first.
If the only thought on it is this is utterly ridiculous, and it's backwards, it's misogynistic, it's why?
Who gives a fuck?
Who sits there and thinks about what other people are wearing? Look, as long as you're wearing clean clothes that are business casual or business whatever,
right?
I don't show your arms. I don't care. I don't care if you. This is this sort of thing where if you're a moderate, if you're an independent, this is the sort of thing where you really have to push back on GOP. We just can't. We can't have this bullshit.
If I'm a Democratic member of the House in Missouri and I'm a male congressman, state congressman, I'm showing up in a tank top.
Yeah.
Jim Trafficant, who formerly represented your district, used to literally make a mockery out of the dress code, and I think it was completely calculated. You showed up in jean jackets with the sleeves cut off, I think. And...
No, it wasn't calculated. That's just how Jim dressed.
Okay, well, you knew him better than me.
Yeah.
But I thought it was more of a fuck you guys. You're doing your shit.
We thought that too, but no, he didn't understand. He literally didn't understand that. His polyester fucking leisure suit from 1976 was not really appropriate to wear on the fucking house floor.
All right. I
it was actually kind of remarkable. Like, oh my God, you're this oblivious. I mean, like, did you see his hair?
Oh yeah. Like, but I think it was you who told me the hair was a calculated move.
No, the hair. His wife cut his hair.
Well,
and
that's
he
calculated.
She was the only person he would let cut his hair. And we're like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, what? She does a great job. Like, oh, thank God.
Okay, so all right. So,
but to your point,
aside,
like, yeah, I mean,
any chance I can bring that up and doing it.
Him in this situation actually would be great because he would show up with a fucking tank top. But nah,
any law about dress code that is gender specific
is just absurd.
Yeah,
it's just absurd. I mean, come on.
Do you think this stems at all from the famous Michelle Obama sleeveless dress? Because they lost their minds over that.
Maybe it just. I don't know. I think. Look, as much as some of the, progressive feminists, they just want to control women. They just want to control women. Like, some of that I don't listen to because, like, a lot of times people are just screaming whatever the person next to them is screaming without any way to back it up or any sort of information. But I don't know how you can, between the Dobbs decision with the Supreme Court, the number of states that quickly and immediately moved to ban abortion, and not only ban abortion, but then punish women for any sort of activity related to it.
Right.
Right? I mean, you talk about women that are afraid to Google
birth control,
prenatal care because they're afraid that someone from their state is going to kick in their door. And now you've got this bullshit in Missouri. Like, how can you in good conscience not think that these people just want to control women? Right? Well, you don't show us. And what's the reasoning behind it? Right? Does it really?
If you're that distracted by a woman's bare arms, right, I don't want you to. The right to bear arms.
Like a congresswoman in Missouri. Seeing her arms, is that distracting to you? You can't do your job, so you need to make it right. What's the reasoning behind it? And honestly, don't come to me with any modesty bullshit. Do not come to me with any modesty bullshit. All right, things were really modest in the 50s. Congratulations.
Right.
You know what was also going on in the 50s? Segregation was really cool. Right? You guys all thought segregation was great. Right? So I don't give a fuck about your modesty bullshit. I don't give a fuck about your religious bullshit on why women, sex, and whatever. Everybody fuck. I don't care if you walk around naked. Fuck that. Like, this is insane. Right? That you get in 2023, you need to cover your arms and cover your calves and can't see this and can't see that. It's a distraction to the men and it's not pure. Whatever the fuck. Like, I mean, you heard people saying Handmaid's Tale, Handmaid's Tale, Handmaid's Tale, and you're like, calm down. It's not that. And then they get shit like this. Right? Where it's just like, all right, well, I mean,
all right, so first of all, my right to bear arms, B-A-R-E, was a good joke. Was a good joke. You can choose to ignore good humor if you want. No, but seriously, if this is what you want, then you probably might as well be pro-Taliban. I mean, I know that's an extension, but look at what's going on in Iran right now. Iran is literally a woman violated their decency code or whatever by not wearing her headscarf correctly, got arrested, and ended up dying in custody. And there have been multiple protests and hundreds of deaths as a result of that. This is not that, but it's in that direction. And you know what? If a woman wants to show up in a bikini and does her job, then next time she gets up for re-election, if you think that that's an inappropriate way, use that in your campaign. But in office, dress however the fuck you want. You should respect the office. I mean, if someone showed up,
fine, just respectfully,
but there doesn't need to be a law.
Like it doesn't need to be a law. And whether a woman can do a job in short sleeves or long sleeves, like, it doesn't matter. And why is it only applied to women?
That's the crazy part.
Like, I mean, because Jim Jordan in Ohio wears short sleeve button down shirts.
Right.
That should be banned. Right, like, I would absolutely support that being banned because I think short sleeve button down shirts are ridiculous. But like, why is it not like at minimum at least make it across the board?
Right.
Like, I mean, like,
to specify gender is just stupid. To specify
gender is a problem. But Jim, what I'll say is, you just went to me and was just like, oh, well, I don't think a registry leads to gun confiscation, right? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of women who went into Congress who didn't anticipate that they were going to get hit with a law that says you can't show your arms, right? These people can't be fucking trusted, right? These people can't be trusted to make fucking sane, rational decisions.
When you were making that point earlier, I was surprised you didn't go with Dobbs, because the Roe v. Wade was considered settled law, established law. And I think a lot we talked about.
But that's different. That's the Supreme Court, right? If this decision came down from the Supreme Court to make this decision, then
we're in Taliban territory.
Well, no, but I mean, because the court then remands it back to the court or back to the states or whatever, and then it has to go through that process.
Well, this is a state thing, though.
But I'm going back to the gun thing, right? Like that's where the difference is, right?
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, like, where I'm making the connection with the gun thing is, like, look. I don't trust these people to make sane, rational decisions. I don't trust them on the right or the left to make the sane, rational decision. If I could trust that the anti-gun community or the gun control community or whatever would be safe and rational and would stop at safe and rational, okay. I don't trust that, which is why I don't want any of it, right? Like I don't trust you to stop in the middle. Therefore, I'm not engaging with you, right, on this when it comes to the gun thing. Right, and now these people have shown that these fucking dipshits can't be trusted. Right, when it comes to just common sense rational, like who was thinking about this? Right, like who was just like, cover those arms. Right, like I just don't understand how we're even here. Like I want to know who brought this. Absolutely. I want to know who brought it, and I want you to walk me through the fucking process of getting to a law that bans women from fucking showing their arms. I want to know.
And I want to run the campaign of the person that runs against that person.
Right.
Because I want to say, okay, you were representing the people of the state of Missouri, and you felt that we should spend time on whether or not you can see bare biceps and triceps. We've had all kinds of issues in the state.
You know what's interesting? Dana Loesch, who's pro Second Amendment, but she was the one talking about Herschel Walker, where she was like, she didn't care about how many abortions she had. Right. She just wanted power, right?
Right.
She's from Missouri.
And I've
seen her many times sleeveless, right? She's a Second Amendment gun. She's out there shooting in a tank top, whatever.
Right. But she's not in the state
She does her show. But listen, she does a lot of lobbying, everything else. My question is, if she were in the State House in Missouri, right, how would she feel about this, right? Would she fold up and be like, yeah, I totally agree with this. Like, would she buy into it and just stick to the narrative, right? Or all of a sudden, does she have to call a spade a spade? That's what I'm just curious. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what she would do, right? Because, again, you can't fucking trust any of these people.
Right. No, that's a great point, because Dana Loesch, in a large part, she's a huge advocate for the Second Amendment. But she also does, for lack of a better word, sexualize it, right? She's always a very, very attractive woman, like you said, wearing tank tops.
I mean, a woman wearing a tank top, God damn it, Jim. Yeah, like a woman wearing a tank top shouldn't be sexual. Like you make it sexual. Like she's just wearing a tank top because she's outside shooting, right? Okay. I've seen plenty of guys do it too.
Sure.
Right, where maybe all they're wearing is just their plate protector with no sleeves. Like, so wearing a tank top, male or female, isn't sexual.
But fine. But take the tank top away. She utilizes her looks as part of her brand.
Yes, she absolutely does.
Which is fine.
Yes, it is.
But if she gets told you can't,
tone it down.
Yeah.
Right? Tone it down. Right?
I'd be curious to see how she responds.
Like, where does her I'm a strong, independent woman clash with her, I'm a super tight conservative, follow the narrative, I want conservative power? Like, what's the nexus? What's the Venn diagram for all that? When do you push back against your own people other than when they're not saying exactly what you want them to say? I don't know.
All right. We're running out of time, but there was a situation in Houston taqueria, a casual dining establishment, where a diner was at his table. A man walks in with a gun, robs multiple customers. Literally, these people are on the floor, coughing up money, hiding under tables, terrified. And one of the patrons, while this gunman is in the store but kind of walking away from him, draws his handgun, fires 3 times, killing the gunman. Now, the gun turned out to be a BB gun, which I will state right now is absolutely irrelevant. A lot of BB guns look like real guns, and if you're in that situation, you don't have time to, have them fire a test shot. I don't know what I would do in that guy's situation. I don't think he acted unreasonably. The only thing that I think he's going to get in trouble for is he left the scene, and he left the scene in a vehicle that probably took all of 5 seconds to identify. It was a beat-up old flatbed pickup truck, so it didn't. I mean, it was pretty distinct looking. But in my opinion, I don't know that I'm going to say he did the right thing. I don't know that he, did the wrong thing. I don't know what I would have done. But from a legal perspective, I don't see him getting in any trouble, and I really don't think he should.
No, he shouldn't. And I think, if anything, he might have like an obstructing.
Yeah, leaving the scene.
Right, whatever. But I mean, it's not like listen. He's definitely not gonna It's not facing a murder charge or whatever. I mean, I think you genuinely have a situation of old school cowboy, just sort of like, well, here's a problem, here's the solution. I was done eating anyway. See you kids later, and I'm off. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
And sure, maybe there was some calculation. Who knows? Maybe the guy has a warrant or something like that, outstanding warrant, or maybe he shouldn't be driving because he got. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, maybe there was a good reason why he left the scene.
Maybe he thought, I just want to get away from this. I don't want to deal with the police coming and shooting me.
Right. I mean, who knows? It'll be interesting to see if they track him down, what they do.
Oh, his lawyers actually already contacted the police.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So his lawyers made statements saying,
okay. I mean, I think if I were in that situation and I'm the shooter, then I would definitely stay. But it's interesting that he left, but then it's also interesting that he got lawyers and then they reached out. So I don't know. And who knows?
I'm sure he realized it's not.
Or it could be a situation like maybe he's got a kid, like a daughter or something, where they were just like, Dad, you can't just shoot people and walk away.
We've talked about this, Dad.
Right, we've talked, Dad. Come on now, just breakfast. So I don't know.
All right. Well, I was thinking about this, and again, what would I do? And I would say this: once you draw your gun, you're pot committed. You're in, because if you pull your gun out and that guy pivots on you, you've got to assume he's going to shoot at you, and you pretty much don't have a choice at that point.
Listen, I put it this way: once someone, comes into an establishment to rob people, whatever the people in there do to eliminate that person as a threat, it's fair game in my book.
Okay,
right? You go in there with a gun. I don't care if the gun is fake.
Right? Absolutely irrelevant.
Right.
I mean,
whether it's
again, I can't.
Right. I'm not. Fuck you. You're not killing me. I don't care if it's a fake gun or not. Don't come in there with a fake gun.
Right.
But you come in there with any sort of weapon, right? You come in there with a baseball bat or whatever. Whatever. It is what it is. But I just, I don't know. I feel the same way, right?
All right.
That's it. But I gotta go.
All right. We are at Whiskey Congress on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for listening. We're done.